Seals pinned under fire. The janitor whispered, "Give me the rifle." That moment changed fate. Next 30 seconds, 0:30:33 at Fort Iron Vale, carved against the jagged ridges of the Edgewater Highlands. Dawn should have been ordinary. Commander Jason Cross had led SEAL Team 9 into another training cycle, weeks before deployment. To them, the base was sacred ground where warriors sharpened their edge. To her, it was where she cleaned up their mess. Where are you watching from your city, your country? Drop it in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss our most intense military stories. Every morning at 500 Linaria, Moreno walked the ranges alone, dark hair tied back, eyes steady but unreadable. She patched bullet boards, swept brass, and refilled ammo crates. To most, she was background noise. But Cross, moving along the catwalk, had noticed her once or twice, never flinching at the thunder of live fire, never breaking rhythm when explosions shook the ground. He had filed it away as toughness. He never asked more. Moreno carried the legacy of Master Sergeant David Moreno, the phantom of the Korath conflict in the 1970s. 101 confirmed kills, countless more unrecorded. A shadow recon sniper whose name was whispered but never printed. When shrapnel tore his arm and forced retirement, he refused to let his craft die. Instead, he passed it into the hands of a granddaughter who absorbed every word on a lonely ranch in Montana. Weekends became war zones of discipline. At 10, she held his rifle steady against the wind. At 12, she read mirage shimmer off desert rock. At 14, she learned the hardest part of shooting wasn't the trigger, it was the weight. Little Hawk, her grandfather would call her, lining up shots at impossible ranges. A rifle is just metal and wood. Your patience, that's the weapon. To be a sniper is to disappear, think like the enemy, and strike when they never expect it. By 17, she was out shooting hunters and veterans twice her age. She entered competitions under false names and walked away with trophies no one connected to the quiet girl from the ranch. At 18, she tested with perfect scores on every military exam. Her marksmanship shattered records. Her ballistic calculations left instructors shaking their heads. And still, recruiters smiled politely and told her she'd make an excellent analyst. Maybe logistics, maybe medical. Combat not for her. Not for a woman. She earned a degree in mechanical ballistics and tried again. Same results. Men presented her innovations as their own, while she was handed paperwork in silence. So she compromised. If they wouldn't let her in through the front door, she would slip through the back. A maintenance badge got her access to the very ranges where the SEALs trained, and for 2 years, she stayed in the shadows patching targets, cleaning brass, studying every drill. To them, she was another worker. To herself, she was sharpening for the day destiny called. And at Fort Iron Vale, destiny was inbound, riding on mortar fire and the screams of men about to be overrun. She memorized every drill they ran. She mastered every tactic they ignored. And still no one saw her coming. For 2 years, Linaria Moreno walked the same firing lines her grandfather once dreamed she would command. She patched targets shredded by live fire, swept brass by the bucket, and wiped down rifles that had jammed after 1,000 rounds. But while the SEALs of Fort Iron Vale sharpened themselves for war, Moreno honed silence. She recorded every formation in her mind, breach stacks, close quarters rhythms, sniper spotter calls. She saw where they were flawless, and where her grandfather's lessons would have found the gaps. Few guessed that after hours she drove 2 towns over to a civilian range hidden in the highlands. There, away from oversight, she split bullets at 800 meters. Her name never appeared on the leaderboards, but her group sat tighter than anyone else's. The truth was simple. The very skills the Navy refused to test her on had already been proven in silence. At night, she replayed the SEALs' drills in her head, how she would shave seconds, how she would adapt to shifting wind, how she would survive the moves they didn't practice. Every casing she swept up was a reminder of what she'd been denied. Denial didn't break her, it sharpened her. On the other side of her world stood Commander Jason Cross, 38, scarred from 16 years of combat tours, a man whose presence carried the gravity of survival. Men followed him into kill zones because he had led them out before. Cross had commanded missions from Mogadishu's alleys to mountains where maps blurred into fog. His word was law in chaos. And yet, for all his brilliance, he was blind to the weapon standing yards from him. It wasn't cruelty. It wasn't disdain. It was the Brotherhood's blind spot. To him. Moreno was efficient and dependable, but only as a technician. He never asked about her past, never wondered why she moved with such precise economy, never noticed that her eyes didn't just observe the range, they measured it. If Moreno felt bitterness, she buried it under discipline. She didn't complain. She didn't confront. She watched. She learned. She waited. Because she understood something Cross did not, opportunity often comes disguised as chaos, and chaos was already rolling toward Fort Iron Vale. The base was about to be tested not by drills or doctrine, but by fire, and the quiet worker in coveralls dismissed. Forgotten was about to step into the crosshairs of history. Mortars fell, men scattered. The maintenance girl moved toward the gunfire. The drill was supposed to be routine urban angles, precision shooting lanes, a final polish before deployment. Commander Jason Cross paced the catwalk at Fort Iron Vale, eyes on timing, spacing, breath. Then, the world buckled. At 8:47, the first mortar struck the admin block like a sledgehammer from the sky. Glass shrieked. Smoke rolled dirty across the ranges. A second round cratered the parking line, flipping a pickup like a toy. Then came the rip of small arms fire from the ridgelines of the Edgewater Highlands clean. Coordinated, merciless, contact, contact. Cross's radio flared. Multiple hostiles inside the perimeter repeat. "This is not a drill," another voice cut in. High with adrenaline, Cross. "This is Iron Vale Command. Estimate 20+ insurgents, 3 sniper teams, 1 heavy MG on the hills, QRF ETA 20 mics. Hold what you can. 20 minutes. In this kind of fight, it might as well have been 20 years. The SEAL element scrambled for cover, low berms, concrete barriers, the skeleton of a shade frame never meant for bullets, fire-stitched gravel at shin height. One enemy sniper had the rhythm perfect. His shots bracketed each burst from the heavy MG, pinning Cross's men whenever they tried to move. "Vega's hit," someone shouted. Sergeant Mark Vega, their sniper, slumped against a barricade, blood pulsing from his shoulder. "I'm good," he rasped, lying to himself. Corporal Ellis Kane, comms dragged behind a tire stack, his lower leg shredded by shrapnel, nets dirty but holding. He gasped, forcing clarity into the channel as his hands shook. Cross swept the chaos through smoke and dust. Ammunition bled away faster than courage. The heavy was walking its bursts toward their flank, funneling them into a kill box. Unless the snipers were cut out, the QRF would arrive to nothing but bodies. 50 meters away, Lynn Aria Moreno lay pressed in the gravel, lungs burning from concussion, through grit-stung eyes. She caught the telltale shimmer of heat above steel and the betraying spark on a ridge. Mirage drifted. Muzzle flash. Dust kicked wide, 5 to 7 knots of crosswind. The enemy sniper had overcompensated. His arrogance would be his flaw. Her mind did the math silently. Ballistics, angle, rotation, dwell time. The heavy MG was married to a spotter with good glass. Remove the spotter. The roar would choke. While civilians sprinted for bunkers, Moreno slid on elbows and hips toward the range storage, timing her crawl between bursts. She moved like she'd done it all her life, low profile, deliberate, invisible in motion. Cross caught sight of her. Everyone else was diving away from the fire. She was cutting into it. The image refused to make sense. She reached the storage cage. unlatched it with the muscle memory of 100 work days. Inside carbines, optics, spare gear, and the rifle her hands claimed without hesitation. An XM-17 marksman rifle, freshly serviced after yesterday's training run. Still zeroed by instructors by the time Cross registered what she carried. Moreno was already angling for height, the old observation tower at the edge of the range. A steel relic, long unused for drills. Overlooked and left standing because it was deemed irrelevant. Not armored, not ideal, but it commanded the one slice of battlefield no one else could see. "What the hell are you doing?" Cross barked over the ricochets. Moreno turned, eyes steady. "Decisive! Commander, I can cut their snipers from that tower. I need Vega's scope and your radio frequency. You're a civilian," he shot back. The words came sharp, born of doctrine more than doubt. "Your sniper's bleeding out. Your comms are half a man. QRF is 20 minutes away." Her voice was level just numbers, war reduced to math. "Let me do what I was trained to do when no one else would train me." A bullet smacked concrete near Cross's boot, dust peppering his leg. Vega, pale with blood loss, unclipped his scope and tossed it. Moreno caught the strap mid-air like she'd rehearsed it 100 times. The battlefield seemed to pause. Cross stared at the woman he had never really seen, weighed against the men he refused to lose. Leadership was a ledger risk, reward, and the courage to sign your name under both. He shoved his headset into her palm. "You get to that tower, you talk to me, and you do not die." "Copy," she answered, already moving. Bullets chased her climb as she sprinted for the ladder, folding herself into angles, ascending between bursts like a dancer threading beats. Halfway up, a tracer hissed past her ear. She didn't flinch. She didn't look back. If Lynn Aria Moreno made the tower alive, the invisible sniper no one believed in would become the only plan that mattered. If she didn't, Ironvale would go silent before the QRF ever reached the gate. She climbed into the fire. She carried their last hope, and she was about to prove everyone wrong. Enemy fire hammered the range, bullets slicing the air like steel wasps. Commander Jason Cross ducked as a burst shattered the concrete above his head. When he looked back, Lynn Aria Moreno was already moving low, fluid, tactical, not panicked, not running, advancing. "Vega!" Cross barked to his wounded sniper. "Give her your scope and headset," through clenched teeth. Vega protested, "Sir, she's not qualified." "I don't care if she's qualified," Cross growled. "I care if she can shoot." "Look around, we're out of options." Moreno accepted the gear with hands that didn't tremble. She wasn't improvising. She was stepping into the role she'd been denied her whole life. At the base of the observation tower, Cross grabbed her arm. Dust and gunpowder swirled between them. "If you can't do this, say it now. I won't send you up there to die trying to be something you're not." Her eyes locked on his calm, unflinching, cold with purpose. "Commander," she said, voice steady as a trigger pull. "Trust me. This is what I was born to do." Something in Cross's chest shifted, for the first time. He wasn't ordering her, he was following her. Bullets cracked against the tower's frame as Moreno climbed. She moved like vapor through fire, slipping between arcs, her body folding against steel like she'd rehearsed it 1,000 times. Enemy snipers searched for her silhouette, but she gave them nothing. Cross raised his binoculars, tracking every step. When she reached the platform, the transformation was instant. The quiet maintenance worker vanished, replaced by a precision shooter setting up her XM-17 with textbook perfection. "Overwatch, this is ground," Cross called over the net. "Priority target sniper position, 2 o'clock, 600 meters. He's pinning us. Ground, Overwatch. I have visual, calculating wind drift and elevation. Stand by." The voice in Cross's ear was not the voice of a janitor. It was the clipped, professional cadence of a trained sniper. A chill slid down his spine. 30 seconds later, the report cracked across the valley, 600 meters away. The enemy marksman crumpled rifle tumbling out of a nest that had been invisible until she exposed it. "Holy shit," whispered Davis. "The youngest SEAL. She nailed it." Moreno didn't pause. Scope shifted. Breath measured. Her second shot came 45 seconds later, and another enemy sniper folded against the hillside. Cross's hands trembled not from fear, but from realization. The woman they had ignored for 2 years was systematically dismantling an assault team that had outflanked his SEALs. Overwatch. 2 targets down. Identifying additional threats. Outstanding shooting. Continue engagement. What followed was a clinic in destruction. Machine gunner neutralized at 750 meters with bullet drop factored like a mathematician at war. Mortar spotters dropped mid-stride as she led moving targets across broken terrain. By her 6th confirmed kill, the enemy's coordination fractured, fire slackened, positions emptied, panic replaced precision. Ground, Overwatch, 6 confirmed KIA. Remaining hostiles are withdrawing northeast. Recommend pursuit if assets available. Cross lowered his binoculars slowly. His entire team was alive because of her. The invisible worker had turned the tide with 6 shots and unshakable nerve. She conducted post-engagement checks as if none of it rattled her unloading. Securing. Scanning. Only when the field went quiet did she descend. Calm as though she had just finished another shift of patching targets. The SEALs gathered, bruised, bleeding, but breathing. They stared at her not as support staff, but as something they couldn't yet name: rescuer, savior, sniper. Cross stepped forward, lowering his rifle. "Moreno," he said quietly, eyes locked on hers. "I need you to tell me, what the hell just happened?" She handed him the rifle, removed the headset, and stood there like she'd never been invisible at all. "Sir," she said simply, "I just did what needed to be done." But Cross wasn't finished. He wanted answers. He wanted her story. And the truth behind Lynn Aria Moreno's hidden war was about to change everything the Navy thought it knew about talent, training, and what makes a warrior. She was never just the cleaning girl. She was a sniper forged in silence. And now the world had no choice but to see her. Commander Jason Cross stood in the settling smoke, eyes fixed on the woman who had just saved his men. "Moreno, where did you learn to shoot like that for the first time?" Lynn Aria Moreno allowed herself to answer. "My grandfather," she said, "Master Sergeant David Moreno, Shadow Recon Sniper, Korath Conflict. He taught me everything the military never would." Silence gripped the team. For 2 years they had treated her as background noise, someone who patched their targets and swept their brass. Now they saw the truth. They had been standing beside a warrior all along. Cross's voice came low, almost apologetic. "Why didn't you ever tell us?" Her reply was sharp with quiet frustration. "Sir, when would I have told you? You never asked. To you, I was just the girl in coveralls. Nobody cared what else I could do." 15 minutes later, the quick reaction force arrived to find Iron Vale secure. Enemy bodies littered the hills. The SEAL team, bloodied but alive, stood in a loose semicircle around the woman who had just altered their fate. The after-action reports read like legend. 6 confirmed kills under fire, snipers, machine gunners, mortar spotters eliminated with mathematical precision. Classified analysts would later call it a textbook case of precision marksmanship under combat pressure. Except the textbook didn't exist yet. Moreno was the textbook. Commander Cross filed the recommendation himself. Immediate commissioning. Accelerated review. He refused to let bureaucracy bury her again. Senior officers pored over her file in disbelief. Perfect test scores. Forgotten competition records. Years of silence from a system that had never looked close enough. Within months, the Navy did what it had never done before, offered a direct commission to the maintenance worker they once ignored. Moreno became an officer. And, soon, part of the most elite sniper programs in the world. But her greatest victory wasn't the commission. It was the shift she forced in those around her. Moreno didn't just save my team. Cross would tell other commanders, She taught us the most dangerous assumption we can make is believing we already know what someone's capable of. Their relationship changed from commander and support staff to equals professionals bound by respect, not hierarchy. Cross learned to listen to voices outside his pattern of experience. Moreno learned that even the most rigid institutions could adapt slowly, painfully, but inevitably. Now, Lieutenant Commander Lynn Aria, Ghost Moreno, runs the Navy's Advanced Marksmanship Program. Men and women alike learn under her instruction that excellence doesn't come from expectations, but from preparation meeting opportunity. And yet, her story isn't just about the Navy. It's about us. How many times have we overlooked someone because they didn't fit the mold? How many times has greatness been ignored because it wore the wrong uniform, carried the wrong title, or stood in the wrong place? The SEALs of Iron Veil learned it the hard way. True capability doesn't announce itself. It performs quietly, decisively when performance matters most. She didn't just clean the ranges, she was forged by them, waiting for the moment when invisible expertise would decide between life and death. And when that moment came, the world finally saw her.